Hello and welcome to episode 71 of Makers.dev. Chris, 71 is so much fun.
Yeah, 71's a big number, but
It's a big number.
that's what
Yeah.
happens when you just do it every week for a year and a
Yeah.
half.
I feel like it was like last week we were at 52 and I was like, oh my God, we've been doing this for a year.
Yeah.
And now it's 71 and that's such a bigger number than 52. I need to go back at some point and re-listen to the old ones. I feel like I would get a lot of insight from where I was at that time and the things I've been struggling with. Like I've talked about this several times, but I feel like my main motivation for doing this is for me. Like I almost don't care if other people are listening to it.
Yeah.
So I'd like to be an audience member and not just a producer. But how do you feel about the number 71?
Yeah. Same here. One of the benefits of us cross-posting to YouTube is that I watch YouTube and I'm subscribed to our feed, and so every once in a while it will pop up like a really old episode, and I'll give it a listen. So like I recently listened to like our first episode popped up, so I gave it a listen, and we're starting to get relatively big view numbers. Like over 100 views on the older episodes. And so
Really?
yeah, which is considering we get like 5 views on the newer episodes per week.
Yeah.
So it's neat. It just kind of compounds historically too, so that's cool.
That's amazing and really surprising to me. I hadn't checked those numbers recently. How cool. Yeah, that's. I feel like we're like curating our own YouTube of content of ourselves from the past. I have that sometimes with vacation videos. I'll like spend some effort editing a vacation video, and then a year or two later I'll watch it, and it's like I'm reliving the vacation. It's really fun. I'll say also I'm pretty confident I've fixed the audio issue, and I think I want to write a blog post about it or something. Or maybe tied into like a bigger SaaS, but I'll say that for later. That's a thing I want your hot take on. But it took until episode 69, 68, I think was the first one, to fix this audio issue that's been plaguing us. And I'm reminded of at the very beginning this mantra we had of just ship it, it and fix it in the next one. That issue, I just kicked the can down the line all the way to that episode, and I'm so happy I did that, because if I wanted to, because I have this streamlined pipeline I have all the original source files, I could theoretically, I don't know if I'll ever be able to justify this, just rerun my script on all the old files and update the audio on Transistor. I couldn't do that on YouTube, but whatever.
Right.
And the audio is going to be fixed. But perfectly fine and happy with having done this many episodes, and now this episode on to the future, the audio is going to be nice and crispy. And I think that's the ideology I want to be following in life, of just ship it and then fix it later if it bothers you.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of what I'm doing with Acorn Chat, and I think what you're doing with the new version of File Inbox, that works for SaaS too. Yeah, just ship it and fix it later. Yeah,
it's a good mantra. Chris, what did you get up to last week, and why did it have so much to do with spam?
Yes, spam. Well, so first my parents were here like for Easter and spring break, so I did that. That was nice. And so I only had like a partial week really because I was with them. But yes, so last week I launched SaaStips.com, which is a new thing that I'm doing, mostly for myself, just like this podcast, but it is going to be a catalog of everything that I learn on podcasts and in articles and everywhere in books about SaaS. I have wanted to do this for a while, like publicly produce a catalog of what I learned, because I will remember like this tip from some podcast and have to like dig through either, like I keep a lot of notes, like random notes in different places. So this is, I'm not producing my own tips or anything. This is just curation. This is a curation of other tips. So yeah, I'm launching it as like a kind of like, I guess it's sort of like a blog, but it's mostly like a newsletter, so you can sign up for it and get tips. And as soon as I did that, I started getting a bunch of spam email addresses. And so these are email addresses that look kind of normal. They're mostly at like Yahoo or AOL or whatever, but they look kind of normal, but they don't go anywhere. They never double opt in. And I've noticed this before, not on this site, but on other sites, where I ask for a first name and then an email address. I will get a first name that's either gibberish, it's like just random letters and numbers, or it's a first name like Greg, and the email address will be like Derek123@yahoo.com. So it's like the name and email address don't line up at all. Yeah, so it was just really annoying, because I would have 10 valid email addresses sign up for SaaS Tips, and then 100 random bot emails. And so I posted on Twitter, what's the easiest way to fix this? I didn't really want to put a CAPTCHA on it, because then that's a little annoying. So I ended up implementing honeypot input fields, which is something that the bot will fill out, but is hidden from regular users. And I did it with JavaScript as well. So like 2 different ways, and so far both ways have, it's either like 100% or there is one sort of suspicious email that may have slipped through but I've been checking every day, and yeah, so far it's caught all the bot emails. So I think I've effectively squashed the bot email address problem. That's what I did.
I have 6 points that I
Okay.
want to talk about from what you just said. From top to bottom, I love the idea of SaaS tips. That's really cool. I feel like you're doing a lot of what I wanted to accomplish with continue to want to accomplish with recap.app of like it's a way for me to consolidate my thoughts from these talks I'm watching and things I'm listening to. As part of the process of writing it and putting it in my own words, I'm understanding it much better. And then it's if someone's Googling for this thing, they'll find this. And I've had several dozen times of having a conversation with someone and being reminded of one of these notes that I took on these conference talks and being able to send them the link of like, oh, here's my consolidated thoughts on this thing.
Yeah.
Patrick McKenzie, one of the first conversations I had with him when I was still starstruck, like went behind the ears of like, oh my God, it's Patrick McKenzie. I think one of the questions I asked him was this sort of like naive, like, how do I be successful like you? His answer was leave breadcrumbs, which I think is a tip that he got from a dude named Joel on Software.
Yeah, Joel and Software.
Do you know who that is? I wasn't familiar with it.
Yeah,
Okay.
Joel and Software. So Joel Splosky, he started Fog Creek, which started software consulting and then turned into the company that made FogBuzz tracking and then Stack Overflow. So was his giant thing, was Stack Overflow.
Oh, okay. That's the guy behind Stack Overflow. Okay, cool. Yeah. So apparently Patrick McKenzie was very inspired by Joel Spolsky and specifically this mantra of like leave breadcrumbs. And that's part of what made Patrick McKenzie have this incredibly prolific writing career of like, I tallied one time, I think this was in 2008, when Hacker News first opened their API. I tallied the total word count for all of Patrick McKenzie's posts on Hacker News, and his total word count was higher than all of the Harry Potter books combined. He wrote a novel series on Hacker News being helpful. And that's in addition to his personal blog and everything else. So I love this as a practice. I think it's a really good idea. I'm reminded also of an idea you had for consolidating math concepts from things that you're learning in your master's degree. I could imagine mathtips.com as a thing that grows out of this. So where are you with that project?
I have mostly stopped that project because it turns out it's very, very difficult to create good math content.
Interesting.
Which is why the world needs more of it. But yeah, I tried 4 or 5 or 6 times to create simple, good math content that would help me and help either viewers or readers. And it's just really hard. So, and maybe that means I don't understand it well enough, which is probably true. But yeah, it's a lot easier to summarize, what someone said in a podcast about SaaS than it is to, summarize a math theorem or something.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Huh. Okay. Yeah, it's more conceptual. I guess you have to three blue, 1 brown, or 1 brown, 3 blue.
3 blue, 1 brown.
Fantastic. 3 blue, 1 brown. I think does a fantastic job of that. But I can't imagine that the conceptual work that goes into that, like the end product that we're seeing, it just flows so nicely and is so easily digestible and has such beautiful animations, and I feel like I just get the concept immediately. But I think the behind the scenes work of that is probably incredibly difficult.
Yeah, okay. It's a full-time job to make like a 20-minute video every week or something,
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. I'm not fully satisfied with that. I feel like if you did it badly, that'd be better than not doing it at all. Like if you recorded just a 20-minute live stream of you on your iPad taking notes of trying to explain this concept and sort of fumbling through it, I feel like that'd be better than no video.
It would, except that would take time away from me doing the other stuff. So
okay,
I'd rather do SaaS tips
fair.
well than math tips poorly, I guess is what I'm saying.
That's a good argument. I like focusing. Okay, yeah, I'm sold. A small side note there. Inspired by your idea for doing math tips and the conversation we had about that, I have continued to, anytime I Google something and I remember having Googled it before, it goes in a blog post of that topic. And I don't know when the most recent one that I published of that is, but like just for me personally, one of the things is how to, in Tailwind, vertically and horizontally center an object in a flexbox. Yes. And for the life of me, this information just is not sticking in my head. I think it's justify-content and align justify-center an align dash center, but it could be content dash center.
Items
I don't
dash
know.
center. Yeah, the reason it's hard is because, and this bugs me about Tailwind, it is backwards from what Flexbox is. So Flexbox is align items center and justify content center.
Okay.
And Tailwind is justify center and items center, not align center. And so it takes the first word for justify and the second word for items. Yes, that bugs me.
Oh. This is the sort of thing, once I get my flashcard app up and running, like that's going in a flashcard.
Yeah.
Because I just want to have that top of mind. But until then, I have a blog post at gen.co/tailwind that is all of the things I commonly Google in Tailwind. And the very first one is how to horizontally and vertically align thing in Flexbox. And it's something I've Googled a dozen times before doing this. And since I wrote this down, which I think we started this like a month and a half or 2 months ago, I think I've checked my own internal blog post. I think I've checked it 4 times.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah.
And every time I'm like, of course. And, I've written it and formatted it so it's like I know exactly what it's called. I know exactly where it is. I know exactly where the answer is. I just go there and I know how to get there really quickly. And then I go and copy it and I'm able to have it. So, yeah. I love the idea of SaaS tips.
So side note for your side note, I was going to do this for chrisrichard.com/python and /pytorch because I keep looking up how to read and write files for Python or dictionaries to files. I'd look at every time and saving and loading PyTorch models, right? But chrisrichard.com is written in an old version of Gatsby, and I cannot upgrade for the life of me. I've tried 3 times, and so I have to rewrite it. And I'm probably going to choose Hugo or something, not Gatsby.
Yeah.
It's so the next thing I have to do is rewrite chrisrichard.com just so I can change content. So
yeah. And then you're going to have to be shaving a yak. Man, I would bet with reasonable confidence you're going to end up writing your own blog engine because I went through the exact same thing a year ago, and that's what I ended up doing.
So I would have, but I think Hugo is the one I think I've ended on for something else, and Hugo's pretty good. It's a static blog generator. Yeah, and it's pretty good.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Good. I hope you don't rewrite your own blog engine.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. I have 4 more things I want to talk about from just your opening sentence. Where do I want to start? Oh, I wanted to say I also was getting those weird, never opting in, fake looking email addresses on recap.app, previously microcomp.gen.co. And at first I looked at it and I was like, oh my God, I've had 1,000 signups. Holy cow, that's amazing. And then I looked at it and they just felt wrong.
Yep.
Like that all of the names were proper nouns. Like it wasn't a person's name. It was like bridge or like, railroad. And I was like, what? And then, the email addresses just sort of looked strange. What's going on? Why are people doing this? I heard a theory on Twitter that it was like people trying to spam other email addresses, so it's an attack on the email address that they're trying to like DDoS an email address by signing it up for a whole bunch of newsletters or something. That doesn't quite resonate with me. What's in the research you've done so far? What's your take on that?
Yeah. So I think Aaron Francis said it best on Twitter. He said money. I don't know how, but the answer is money.
Yeah.
Yes. So this is my best understanding of at least one of the reasons why this happens. Okay. There are email addresses and email lists that email services maintain as like honeypot email addresses that are known bad email addresses.
Okay.
And if someone tries to send email to, and they're on these lists of emails that you can buy. So these lists of 1 million email addresses of certain things, they're flooded with email addresses that are known bad email addresses. And so if people send email to those email addresses, then the email providers know that sender has bought a list and is just spamming the list. And so they put them on spam. So what the senders have done in response is they'll buy the list, and before they use it, they will sign everyone on that list up for loads of email of email newsletters, and they'll get email sent to those email addresses from any source possible.
Yep.
To like warm up the email address basically, and then it becomes useless as a honeypot email address, and then they can send email to those email addresses without getting blocked. That is my current understanding of the shady list bombing practice. Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. So now people like you and me are going to be messaging these addresses first.
Right.
And now the email providers are going to be like, oh, legitimate people are emailing these email addresses. this must have gotten out. We can't depend on this anymore as a sign of someone is definitely a spammer.
Right.
So let's just ignore this email address from now on. And now whoever bought the list of email addresses can email the whole thing and have less heat on them.
That is my understanding. I think there are multiple reasons, but that is at least one of them. Yeah.
Okay, that makes perfect sense to me. It's money.
Yeah, money.
It was money. Good. Cool. That sort of encompassed 3 of the points I wanted to hit. So this is some work that you've done of like figuring out this honeypot strategy. Can you talk about the technical aspects of that, of how you did that?
Yeah, so I did 3 things, and there's more to do. There's more I could do, and then someone else on Twitter brought up a good point, so I'll talk about that. So the first thing I tried was just adding a hidden name input field and just using display none to hide it. That didn't work. The bot seemed to understand that was something that they should not fill out. So instead, I wrapped it in a div and just set width to 0, and that seemed to work. So the bots don't use, at least the high traffic bots, like the ones that do this all the time, they don't use screen readers or anything. They just read the HTML, look for input forms that aren't hidden, apparently, and fill them out. So wrapping it in a div and putting width 0, hit it for my regular users, but not for the bots. And so they fill out a fake name, and now I know that anything that gets filled out in this fake name form is a bot. So that was the first way, and that seems to work. That caught all the bots so far. The other way I did it is a JavaScript way. So this requires that requires that users use JavaScript on your website, but I put another hidden form, so an actually like input hidden form on there with a filled in value by default. And then in JavaScript, as the page loaded, I cleared out that value. And then when I get the form submit, if that value has the original value in it, I know that JavaScript was not enabled. And so it was either a bot or someone without JavaScript enabled. So that does require that users have JavaScript enabled, but that also triggered for all the ones that look like bots to me. So
interesting. That's very clever. You mentioned something about someone had a comment on how you're doing this on Twitter.
Oh yeah. So the bad thing about both of those is that screen readers also like do the same thing these bots do basically.
Yes.
So it is a poor screen reader like thing. So I was trying to figure out how to do that. I have to do more research. My current best guess is to do something like name the field like unused or something. So if someone is an actual human with a screen reader, they will hit an unused field and hopefully just skip it.
Yes.
That's my best guess is a workaround for that. But
okay, I like that. Or maybe something like, hello, you're on a screen reader, please don't fill this out.
Yeah, something like that, right?
Okay, cool. Oh, can you tab to the input that's behind the 0 with div?
You can so you can set the tab index like so you, the way I have it, if you tab right now, you tab first to the email address, and then the next tab is the enter button. But if you tab again, you do get to the hidden name field.
Yes.
But most people won't tab to a hidden name field and fill something out.
Okay, that makes sense. Cool.
I don't know if you can. If you set a tab index to like -1 or something, does it never tab? That would be something to look up too.
That's a good question. I would imagine if you just don't set a tab index, then it's not. There has to be a way to like exclude something from the tabbing.
Yeah, there has to be a way. If you don't set a tab index, it by default will still tab to it.
Interesting. Yeah, there's got to be a way to do that. Cool. So you had a problem and you solved it, and now you're done and you can move on to other things, right?
No. Yes, I'm going to move on to other things, but this gets to a hot take idea that I had. So here is my request for a hot take.
I'm so ready.
Yeah. So I did this work, and now I have done the work, and that seems like a great candidate for a little SaaS. Other people have email forms, and they don't want junk emails in their email forms. So it seems like there should be a SaaS that lets you set up a little form and has all of these hidden honeypot fields. It could also have, the other thing about the honeypot field is if you are being purposefully attacked, then this doesn't work because they can just write a little script to get around the hidden field and then it's done. So like maybe optionally turn on reCAPTCHA, so if you are getting intentionally, attacked, then that would help. And lots of other little things. There's probably better ways to do the honeypot, and then you could write nice articles and stuff about it. And then, so I mean, the mini SaaS idea is basically implement all these as a little SaaS and have people create forms and put them in their web pages with a little script and then collect email addresses or other things. I'll pause there. I have more to add on to that SaaS idea if you want, but what do you think? What's your hot take?
I love this as a small SaaS idea. This is very similar to what our mutual friend Shai Schechter is doing with Smart Subscriber. He took this one little piece of an email content, email sending platform, and productized it. And his little piece of it was the unsubscribe page. So when you hit unsubscribe and you go to the default whatever ConvertKit page, it's just a mass, like you unsubscribe from everything. That's a problem because, you know, what if they just didn't like that particular email and they actually want to stay subscribed to other things? And that was a problem he had, I think, or a friend of his. So he whipped up a smarter unsubscribe page that's you can unsubscribe from individual lists, and bought a domain name, smartsubscriber.app or .com, I think, and built the little ConvertKit integration, and I think may also integrate with Drip or something else. And now it's an add-on that integrates perfectly with that, and he figured out the sign up if you paste your keys in here, and that's just the one little piece that's being replaced by ConvertKit. And I haven't talked to him about how much money that's making. He launched that like 1 or 2 months ago, but since he launched it, ConvertKit, he saw someone from ConvertKit signed up for his product and reached out to him, and I think they had a conversation or something, and they have since added native support for the thing that he did. And that's inevitably, I think, what happens here. This is like the classic thing that Apple does. This is what happened to Coverflow. Coverflow used to be this standalone app that was revolutionary. Like, oh my God, you can look at your albums as if they're physical albums. And then Apple rolled it in. And a lot of the other things of like a lot of the features of Spotlight, I think, came from Alfred and Quicksilver. And that makes sense from the platform's perspective, right? Like, it's sort of a hostile attitude to have towards your developers, and now people are going to be more cautious of doing things for your platform. But it is a better user experience if it's just like a toggle in ConvertKit that says, add a reCAPTCHA checkbox to my thing. So I like keeping it as a little SaaS because I think that's inevitably going to happen. It's not going to happen with everyone. It's not going to, but like ConvertKit's probably going to pick it up. Drip might a little later. Everyone that you integrate with, if they have a head on their shoulders, they're eventually going to do this themselves. And I think there's still room in the market for it. And I could see if this starts becoming popular, if you really figure out, if you tap into some crazy marketing thing that like, this is where all the people are that are constantly getting spammed, and I have a thing that will help them. And it's not just for email fields, it's also for any type of form. And here's a little snippet of JavaScript you can add that will add honeypot fields to all of your form submissions, and I tell you whether or not it was fraudulent or not. Honeypot.app or something. And you include the honeypot JavaScript. That's my hot take. I would start by I think it's totally viable and a cool SaaS idea that wouldn't take a lot of time to just make a thing that added on to ConvertKit. I think inevitably it's going to get integrated into the full app, and there's no reason for them to acquire you because like this is just a feature. This is not like a from their perspective, it's a feature. For a lot of their users, it's a mission critical thing that justifies paying you more money.
I built it in a weekend, right? I mean, the initial version at least. So it's a feature. Yeah, for sure.
So another weekend, and like this could be a thing that you sell. How much harder would it be to add, throw this up on a server and user accounts and billing, and that's all stuff you can just copy and paste from other projects, and then input the person's API keys for ConvertKit, figure out how that works. What did you integrate this with on your end? Where was your email list stored?
So this is currently just being stored in a database. So
okay,
yeah,
okay.
So emails go to a database. This leads to hot take number 1.5 of my list, which is an extension of this idea. So yes, this is just a feature, right? But it's leading into what I want for SaaS tips, and what I have wanted. I have tried several email senders, ConvertKit and others, and what I want is...
hold on.
What I want... Wait a minute. What I want is to use another sender, so Postmark or SendGrid or something like that, right? Okay. Or ConvertKit. But I want the UI to be different for sending out newsletters. I want to be able to write my newsletter, and then on the left side, see when things get sent. The way that every newsletter sender that I've seen so far does it is you set the date, and then you write the thing, and then all you have is like a list of things that are going to go out and a date, and it's like hard to figure out like when things are going to go out. It's so what I want is a calendar on the left, or like a list view calendar like iOS, and then on the right my content, and then it's like this is going to go out to 3,000 people. Do you want to publish? And yes, publish, and then it goes into like a queue, right, and gets sent out at the right time.
Okay.
So that's what I want. There are lots of other features you could then add. But the
Yeah.
basic idea is if you have this form capturing emails, then you have all the emails instead of
Yeah.
just sending them to something. Why don't you make a UI for actually sending the emails? And on the
Yeah.
back end, I don't want to do the sending. So you bring your own postmark keys or SendGrid or ConvertKit
Yep.
or whatever.
Yep.
But I have UIs for sending out nice things like newsletters and email blasts and things based on, like I have a nice API for that. That is my hot take idea 1.5. What do you think?
The joy of being able to write software is like, you're going to do this. And it's like just for you. And it's going to be
gonna
great.
do it
It's
for
going to be
SaaS.
exactly what you want.
I'm going to do it for SaaS tips. It's already half done. Yeah.
Good.
So it's already half done for me. Yeah.
That's great. For evaluating this as a product, I don't think I fully understand what you're doing differently.
It is the
Talk
problem
me
is
through. I'm writing a new blog post, and I want to schedule when it's going to get sent out. How does that happen?
so it's a minor distinction, and it's for newsletters only. So even like Substack and stuff, they do this wrong, I would say, which is it is very difficult to say like, I want my newsletter to go out every Tuesday. I want to make sure that for the next 3 months I have a newsletter going out every Tuesday. I want to be able to tell in like 2 seconds that I have all those done and published and edited and whatever. Right?
Oh, this is exactly what I did for the content calendar for Clips.marketing. You have a queue of posts independent from your schedule. So you can say what your schedule is. You can say I want to send out Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And then you ignore that, and then you just write posts and you add them to the queue. Is that right?
Yes, except you can also schedule on for certain days. That's what I want to be able to do.
Sure.
And then there'll be like a big red box for the day that you don't have something scheduled. And so I can look at a calendar and I see a big red box. Like for next Tuesday, I need a post.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I have in this queue 5 posts that are just posts that nothing special about them. That it's just going to go on the queue if there's not something else to schedule. And I post every Monday. I want my thing to go out every Monday at 9 a.m. And this new cool thing just happened in the world. And now I want to write a special post about that and have that go out tomorrow morning. And tomorrow morning is a Friday. So I write the post and I can say, this is a special delivery. I want it to go out tomorrow at 9 a.m. So that's going to go out Friday at 9 a.m. And then with me doing nothing else, the next post in the queue is going to go out Monday morning on my normal content calendar. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
And if you have 5 posts, then on the 6th Monday, there'll be a big red box. And so you know very quickly that you don't have something going out on that Monday. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. I also agree that this is the correct way to do a content calendar because like, yeah, the normal way of doing it is like you schedule a date per post. And then if you want to bump something up or if you want to change the content calendar and stretch it out a little longer, like it's a mess because you have to go through each individual post and say like what the date is per post.
And there's no visual representation. So you have to like read the dates and make sure, and usually they don't say the day on them either in your time zone. And so you like have to read and figure out what day that is and like, do you have something it's a mess.
Yeah. I like the idea too of having things on your, a visual representation of here's the calendar for the upcoming posts. You're green until a month and a half from now. Yep. And that's when, so if you make new content now, you're going to push that out to the future. Because now I can think about like, I need new content ideas, but not for another month and a half. So I'm fine. I'm on track. I'm ahead of the work that I'm doing. Yeah.
And once you have an editor, for example, you can have a post that is yellow until the editor does it, then it's green. So if you're logged in on Friday and you see a yellow post for the next Monday, then you can ping your editor and be like, hey, this isn't edited yet. Yeah, and then you have to mark each post as like ready to be published before it officially goes in the published queue. Right.
Yeah. Oh, that's so funny. I did something really similar. Like it down to the like, is this ready to be published or not for Clips.marketing. Yeah, I really like that as a better content calendar. Man, what is that service though? Like,
so that's why I didn't have it as a SaaS idea until I had this idea to collect email addresses with this bot protection, this bot prevention thing. So you have bot prevention, email address collection, and then you have the UI for sending emails. Yeah. And then to actually send the email, you use a service that's better at that. SendGrid, Postmark, ConvertKit. But
I agree that makes sense to bundle together for you because these are both just features of SaaStips.com. For someone who's a content calendar, it's a totally different product than unless you're going to build your own.
I agree.
Sorry, my watch is going off. Unless you're going to build your own, integrated blogging engine and also hosts the blog posts and everything else. Like, but I don't think that's what you're doing. I think what you're doing is like having an alternative to Buffer.
But for your own newsletter?
But for any sort of content, well, you start with a newsletter.
Does Buffer let you do
that
this?
Work?
Does Buffer have like?
I don't know if they do newsletters. I think they just do social accounts.
Okay, yeah.
I think this is a bigger problem for social accounts than it is for email. Like the core idea here to me is this: it's a better way to queue blog posts. It's a better way to queue content. That you have a queue and you have a schedule, and you slot the things in the queue into the schedule. And I think the play there is a generic. Here are the potential places we could publish. One of them is an email list. One of them is Facebook. One of them is Twitter. I actually have a lot of this half done for Eclipse.marketing.
Yeah.
I think that's the product, and then you just enter things separate from your blog engine. You could be getting this content from anywhere. You enter content in the queue, and for Eclipse.marketing, it's important that some of that be video. But I think that's the product. I think that's where I would.
Oh man! So what's funny is I'm probably going to build that all for SaaS tips too. At least Twitter, because I want to send out tweets and I want to schedule them, and so I'm probably going to end up building that anyway for SaaS tips.
Maybe this is the product we work on together. Hunting for it for 71 episodes.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right, we'll have to think about that.
Okay. Cool.
Interesting.
That's how I would attack that. I think it's a really good solution to a juicy problem. Although saying that, I don't actually know. I'm not familiar with the market of like who would be using that.
It's like sort of a ConvertKit competitor, even though like I could use it on the back end. It's like sort of.
I think it's a Buffer competitor. It's like a Buffer and ConvertKit competitor. It's like a better way to queue posts.
Yeah, so that's why
at the same time, though, like I don't know, is this just a problem for us because we don't have like a content team,
right?
It doesn't matter if your content team has to individually do the posts. Like,
what I really want to do is build this for ConvertKit, and then I could just use it in ConvertKit. I mean, like work at ConvertKit for a month.
Yeah.
Build it for them and then quit. So if anyone from ConvertKit is listening, yeah. Cool. Anyway, all right, that is my hot take 1.5. I have a second one. Are you ready for a completely different second hot take?
Let's go. Hot take 2.0.
During MicroConf, Rob Walling, one of his 30 tips was you should have a marketing changelog, which is kind of a new concept to everybody that I talk to, but it's just a list of marketing changes that you did. So you changed your pricing, you changed the wording on your homepage, whatever. You keep a spreadsheet with the date and what you changed and, maybe reasons why or what you were expecting or something. But it's really just a, changelog of what you did. And I was listening to another SaaS podcast where they where someone told that to someone else, and they were like, "Oh yeah, that's a good idea. I should do that." And so naturally, I looked on Namecheap, and marketingchangelog.com is available.
Oh.
So.
Oh no.
I didn't buy it, but I brought that up to you, and I asked if that would make a good SaaS, and you said what would make it different than a spreadsheet, and I did not have an answer then, but I kind of do now, which is. You could automate a lot of this. So you could track website changes by taking screenshots, every day and that kind of thing. You could integrate with like Stripe, for example, to show your MRR and when things changed. You could track things like your blog and your content that goes out. So here's the blog post that was published here. You could also do things like every one of your employees has a feed of all the changes, and they can make comments and they can ask the owner of that change how that affected things and stuff like that. So I think there are lots of sort of ancillary features that you could add. The problem is it's kind of a brand new market, and it may not be any better than an Excel spreadsheet. So there's that problem. But yeah, what is your hot take?
What is my hot take? I like the idea of integrating with Stripe because that's like solid data that you can use to cross with the data that you're putting into it. The main unknown for me right now, I think, is I've never used a marketing changelog, and I don't think you have either. So is it sufficient to have screenshots? Is it sufficient to have things of blog posts? Like I have my in my recap of Rob Walling's talk at recap.f, I have a screenshot of his marketing changelog, and the sorts of things they did. And I haven't actually looked through item by item of like would this have been covered by screenshots? Would this have been
No.
covered by like a list of the articles? Okay.
No, you'd also have to add things like we changed the pricing, like that might be like sort of a more hidden change. I guess screenshots would cover that, but also like we integrated with this, partner. We did this tweet storm with this influencer. Those are not screenshotable things, but they're all marketing things.
This is a really good problem that if you can unlock, like the copy would write itself of, we had no idea what we were doing in marketing. We were lost in the dark, and we weren't sure what was working and what wasn't working. And sometimes MRR would go up and sometimes it would go down, and we had no idea what was causing what. And then with marketingchangelog.com, we were able to see, oh, here's the event that happened, and that's when the thing went up. I'm not convinced. I would want to see you do this with a spreadsheet first. And I think, and then I would want to see you like consult for someone else just tracking the things they were doing with a spreadsheet. What am I looking for? Like, it's a cool idea, but it's not. It feels like software in search of a problem. It feels like,
yes.
yeah, like I think you hit it on the head when you said, that this might not be providing any additional value over a spreadsheet. To turn this into a business, I think would look like first provide value with the spreadsheet. Figure out a way to do that. Figure out how to contact people. Figure out who your customers are, what the words are that they talk about this sort of problem. Because it sounds like it's, companies at the size of Drip when they implemented this, which was a little bit before Rob sold it, which I think it was something like, 50 employees. So like the path to developing this as a business might look like start consulting for companies with about 50 employees and offer a contract of like, I will help you implement this marketing changelog thing and get you in a place where you can make more confident marketing decisions. Then you're just in charge of implementing the process, which is going to look like have a spreadsheet and, all the parties, add to all the standard operating procedures that people need to, whenever they do a marketing change, and here's what a marketing change is, here's what qualifies for this, make sure that they add it to this spreadsheet, probably an Airtable in a form or something. And then you just write a really simple script that looks at that Airtable data and looks at their Stripe data and then puts the things with the date that they put on the Airtable onto the Stripe data over time. And if you can do that, and you can do that for like, I don't know, 2 or 3 companies and have a standard thing of this is exactly what it looks like, and this was surprising, here's this new category of thing that classifies as a marketing changelog. If you can do that and then systematize like, oh, actually we don't need people to be manually entering these things in the Airtable spreadsheet. I can get this data automatically by just looking at the blog posts or looking at the tracking IDs or looking at the price. These events can all be added automatically. Now you're talking about that this could be a fully automated SaaS, but like, I think starting with it as an app is a premature optimization. Start by just solving the problem first.
Yeah, I like that. That's basically where I ended up, which is why I did not buy the domain name and why, like, I'm not a marketing person, right? So this would be great for like Corey Haynes or something, like someone who's like really marketing focused. That'd be a good SaaS. Also, one of the first SaaS tips that I wrote was called Flintstoning, do it manually first, by Alex Hillman and Amy Hoy. They say, do everything manually first, and then you'll know before you put it in software, basically, so that you know what to build.
Great advice.
So I should follow that SaaS tip.
Yes.
Yeah, so those were the SaaS ideas I had that went nowhere because of all the reasons we just talked about, but it was neat to hear you analyze them. So that's what I did.
It was fun. I enjoyed these hot takes. Here's what I did this last week. I took up this consulting contract with my friend Trig, who is a magician who I talk about all the time. It's so much fun. It's just a totally different world. And he, for anyone just tuning in who doesn't know about Trig, he is a very technologically like future-oriented magician trying to solve this problem of like, when you think of a magician, you probably think of someone in a top hat and tails, and they have a wand and a rabbit out of a hat and stuff. But that image of a magician was contemporary to the time that sort of magician was popular. Like, to that sort of magician existed when it wasn't unusual for people to be wearing top hats and tails. A modern magician should use things like iPhones and iPads and TVs and projectors and stuff. And so, instead of polling the audience by like passing around a box with pieces of paper in it, wouldn't it be cool if you polled the audience by having them text you? So I can't get into the details of like what the effect is or what the work is, but it involved texting and Twilio and that sort of thing. And it's really fun for me to like step outside of my normal SaaS thing and throw this together. And in the past, I've done things for him just for free, and we talked about how it's sort of difficult to have that kind of a relationship with friends of, am I going to charge you for this, or is this like a favor thing? And there's a lot of, he consistently has really fun projects to work on. And I approach this project wanting to set up a sustainable way that we could have an arrangement that worked for both of us, where he's getting the software that he wants, that I've been making for him forever, and I don't feel resentful that I spent a whole bunch of time doing this instead of working on my SaaS. So this is the first time that I charged him for work that I did. And I'm going to get into the juicy details.
Awesome.
I came up with a number that was based on numbers of like what he thought it would cost if he hired someone else to do it. And that number was $2,412.
Very specific.
Very specific. From Never Split the Difference. You come up with a very specific number, and then people are less likely to move it around.
All right.
Like if I said $2,400, he'd be like, how about $2,100? But if I said $2,412, and I told him this, I was like, yeah, I chose that number because I've Never Split the Difference. And he was like, oh, okay.
So actually, just pause there for a sec, because that was actually a great move. Like, that informed him that you were thinking about it, and that you picked a number that he was unlikely to argue with because you wanted that number. Yes. So as a friend, he's not going to argue with that. Like, no. Not because it's a weird number, but because you stated that was your intention. That's actually a great move to tell them that you're doing that.
I'm glad you like that. Good. It also works. Yeah, it's cool that it works even if you tell them what you're doing. Yeah. Yeah, and then I don't feel like I'm being a manipulative scumbag. Like that's why I chose the number.
Yeah.
So I mentally was thinking like, okay, this is an add-on to an app that I've already made, and it's worth that much to him because he agreed to that price and he's happy with it because he knows I'm going to do it, and like I understand what it means to be a magician and the sorts of things, and I'm going to pay attention to the right details, and it's going to be much easier for him to do this if I'm doing it than someone else. And I feel like I can get this done in like a day, like 3, maybe 4 palms max, because I've done all the heavy lifting of this. I've built a Twilio app that has a lot of the same guts that this thing would need to do of sending and receiving texts. The changes that he needs are really just cosmetic with a little extra thing sprinkled on top. So after MicroConf, we both took the whole week off to go to MicroConf. Monday morning, I'm like, the deadline for this thing's coming up. It's mostly done. I've just spent like a palm on it here and there. Let's knock this out today. I think I've already spent like 3 or 4 palms on it. So already over what I thought it would be. One more palm and we're gonna be done. And I start the day, and by the end of the day, like I have just done things that are like really low level lay in pipe. And I'm like, okay, well that's solidified now. So tomorrow for sure. Tomorrow this is gonna be done. And Tuesday comes, and I end up working the entire day on this thing again. I'm like, all right, well, Wednesday for sure. And man, one of the things was it was the most frustrating thing. It was a Firebase cloud function that just like was not doing. It didn't make any sense why it was doing the thing it was doing. I think I lamented this to you like 4 palms in a row of like I'm still debugging this stupid issue of this function won't do the thing I wanted to do. So those I can sort of write off as like, that was me learning more about what Firebase does and getting a better handle on that. That wasn't like strictly in this project, but I was there because of this project. So I end up working until like Thursday, and I'm back and forth with Trig of like, okay, here it is, and here's the current state of it, and he tries to use it and it's broken. It doesn't work in the way that he needs to use it, and I'm like, shoot, there's 12 different reasons this could be broken, and 10 of them would mean that it can't be done unless I totally redo it with something else. So Friday morning comes, and I get this really clever live debugging thing where he's looking at the page through ngrok on my local machine. So I make a change, and he immediately sees it on his computer. Nice. So that was really cool. He was like, wow, this is amazing. This is real magic. And I was like, yes, it is. And we're able to make it work, and he's able to use it for a show that he has that night. And he texted me later and he's like, it worked and it was great and they loved it. And I just felt this warm, fuzzy feeling inside. Combined with this undercurrent of like, man, I spent way more time on this than I thought I was going to. I'm going to do the calculation of the hours, dollars per hour for this on makers.dev on Monday, and I'm going to be ashamed of like, I was working for, $12 an hour with how much this project was worth. And immediately before this podcast, I looked up on my time tracker, midnight.app, exactly how much time I spent on it, including the phone calls I had with him, including that as like billable hours. And I added up all that time, and I took the amount that I charged him for it, $2,412, and divided that by the amount of time. The amount of time was 13 hours and 8 minutes. So 2,412 divided by 13 hours and 8 minutes is $3.06 a minute, which is $183.60 an hour, which I am very happy with as an hourly rate. So I would be very happy to do this again.
That's great. Yeah. As a consultant, one reason I don't take small dollar. Small dollar, 2,400 is not small dollars, but it's small dollars for consulting projects.
Sure.
One reason I don't take small dollar projects is because it's way easy to go crazy overboard and totally get ruined. That's nice that you didn't. That's good. Awesome. Now, what about like future work, future changes, future like downtime, that kind of thing? Is that paid or is that included?
Yeah, we talked a little bit about that of like what's in scope and what's out of scope. He already has an idea for a thing that he wants that's out of scope of what the original thing was. And I don't know. I would like your feedback on that. I think what I'm going to do is say, well, I'm happy working at $183.60 an hour. How about I can either quote him like, I can either try to estimate, I think this is how much time it'll take, so let me charge you this much. Or I can say, well, this is my hourly rate, and you assume the risk of that it might take me longer, and I'll charge you this much per hour. How would you do that?
I would not switch to hourly because customers, so I'll speak generally, customers who are used to paying fixed bid don't like switching to hourly like that. Yeah. That they don't like taking on that risk because like the reason they chose fixed bid is because they like the certainty of that.
Yep.
Also, Trig as a magician has zero idea how to estimate, software hours.
Right.
Also has probably zero concept of like a software feature change can seem like it will take 1 hour and will take 10.
Yep.
Like that is totally possible.
Yep.
And is totally different calculus, for whether or not he does it.
Yeah.
So I would continue to do fixed price things. Anything under say $500, I would just do for free. Once it gets to 500, I would bill in. I would quote in increments of 500 or 412, whatever you do. That's how I would approach it. Yeah.
That's interesting that anything under $500 you would just do for free, because that is in the umbrella of the next feature. The next feature he wants, I think, would take 25 minutes. I think would take one palm. So it's probably going to take, I don't know, 4 palms.
Yeah. Now, if he starts coming up with a 25-minute feature every week, then you're in trouble. But my guess is he'll have 1 or maybe 2 of those.
Right.
And I would just include those.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that would feel good. Yeah, because 183.60, like, I'm overly happy with that. I mentally I was thinking like, anything above 150, I'm going to be happy. So yeah, I do have room, and I feel pretty comfortable assuming that risk of just doing it. And it is out of scope, but now that's sort of, it would feel good to do that.
Yeah, there's also the additional dynamic because he's your friend, right? So like you really want this to be a success just because he's your friend, right? So
yeah, and I don't, for that sort of thing, I would be perfectly happy with the setup that like both of us are used to projects working about like this. So now I feel like would be much more likely to toss me jobs in the future if he knows I'm not going to nickel and dime him afterwards. Like every little thing he wants, I'm going to charge him for it. I like the heuristic of $500. That like if it's something that would take less than $500 of my time, just do it. 500 seems a little high. 250. If it's something that would take more than $250 of my time, then I'll bill him again for it. And if it's a faster change than that, then it makes more sense to just do it. Because I can sort of mentally categorize that as like, it's kind of like sales time because that's increasing the likelihood that I'll get another bigger project in the future.
Yeah.
Okay.
That all flows to regular consulting too. So as for regular consulting, I would say stuff, like for high dollar things, like make it known that you're going to charge a lot of money, but for little things, be super generous with your time and your info. Like never hold anything back. Like always share all of your information. Always be very generous with and quick with responding and stuff like that. So like all those ancillary things, just be super generous, but then also make it clear that for big things, you're going to charge a lot of money. That's how I approach consulting. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, and then when you're buying bigger things, you feel much better about it. Like that's the interaction that I would want to have with a contractor. Yeah, I like that. I'm building a shed, and I was reminded of a YouTube video I watched of someone who was building a shed, and they accidentally cut the internet line that was buried in their yard, and they contacted whatever Time Warner about it, and they said that they were going to send someone out the next day to repair it for free. And that feels like the same sort of thing. Like, what does that take the cable company? They gotta the cost is sending the guy out there, and then he's going to be there for 10 minutes splicing the cable together. He's got whatever the specialized tool is of being able to repair the cable, and then he's going to be gone. Like, it wouldn't make sense to bill them for that because it's going to be like an insultingly small bill. And then it's like a way to do marketing. It's a way to build the customer relationship, and then in the future, when you raise your rates by 20%, that it costs that much more to have the internet. You've filled the reservoir of the relationship beforehand, so it would feel better. Maybe that's not a perfect example, but that's where my mind
it tracks.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you. That's what I'll do. 2 more things I want to talk about. After spending last week working on this project for Trig, and the week before at MicroConf, today was our first day working on, for me, working on File Inbox again, and it felt great. I was just jamming. I missed it. So yeah, I really like where I am with File Inbox. I'm just slowly pushing it forward. Just every day it gets a little bit better. Today I knocked off something like 6 to-dos of things that were broken or things to be improved, and it's going, man. There's a lot of unpolished pieces of it. There's a lot of parts of it that are just completely missing, but like for the pieces that are there, I really like this. I'm building something I'm really proud of. This is the thing that I've wanted File Inbox to be for the last 5 years. I'm making it happen. So that feels really good. I don't really have anything else interesting to say about that, but File Inbox feels good to work on again.
That's cool. Yeah, I had a similar thing with Acorn Chat. So the last few days, so based on April Dunford's suggestion to do a buyer's guide, basically like a really honest buyer's guide, I started putting together a bunch of information about Acorn Chat and the competitive landscape kind of things. And before every first POM that we worked on it, I said, I don't want to do this. And then at the end, I was like, oh, I'm glad I did that. And so, the work feels better than starting the work. For me anyway.
You've gotten to a great place with that too. The buyer's guide outline that you showed me today looks really good. You really simplified. You did the thing that April Dunford said to do.
Yeah.
Of like you're simplifying the buying process into a decision tree of 3 questions that are answerable from the customer from where they are now. It's something like, does your team currently have help desk software that they love? Well, of course they know that because they know what software they're using. And the next question is like, is your team bigger than 5 people? Well, of
15,
course I know that.
Yeah.
15. And then the next question is, does your team currently use Slack? And of course I know if I use Slack. And that's very different than the questions of like, how many visitors do you get per day that are asking you if they want to send a message or something? From April Dunford's talk, what's the maximum weight of solids that you need to flush? I don't know.
Yeah.
But if you ask me the question like, how frequently is this bathroom used? Is it used frequently, like in a bedroom, or is it used infrequently, like in a basement? I can answer that as the homeowner. That's you've rephrased it the way that I want. So I think you did a really good job with that. And I found myself feeling envious of you. Like you're doing marketing work that is the work that makes your business more successful. Like this is what it looks like. And I'm still stuck in this technical, like I love it. writing code is great. And it's so much higher impact doing the thing that you're doing. Like this is, I'm coming to appreciate so much more now. Like this is the work that is actually moving the needle forward on growing your business and helping people. I'm reminded of the podcast we had last week, talking about the Chrome extensions with Tim Leland.
Yep.
Yes. He got me thinking about the struggle I had in the early days of File Inbox, because like to get to the point where I started making money, all of the work leading up to that point was software development. It was all just like, here's the problem as I'm experiencing it. Let me write code until the code solves the problem, and done. And I implemented Stripe as a thing of work, and then people started sending me money. And I was like, wow, this is great. How do I get more of this? Do I write more code? Do I integrate Stripe again?
Yeah.
And that's not at all what the work looks like. The thing that got me there does not grow the business. It's not more software that's going to fix it. It's marketing. It's doing the thing that you're doing. It's telling more people about it. It's writing buyer's guides. It's simplifying things from the buyer's perspective. So I'm really excited to get to that point again. We've talked about that I just have a pathological need to do this and rewrite File Inbox, but like we're getting real close. In my head right now, it's like a month away that this is. I'm going to be able to just like import all my users into this new serverless thing, and then I'll be able to join you in your marketing work.
So what you will feel, what I have felt, is exactly the opposite, which is hilarious, because I see you doing all this development stuff, and I'm like, oh, you're really pushing your SaaS forward, and I'm doing nothing. I'm just doing customer or competitor research.
Yeah.
And so yeah, even while I'm doing it, and I know it's the right thing to do, like I can't shake my developer brain. Yeah.
Man, I get it, dude. I'm happy to push you forward, and when I'm there, I expect you to pull me forward.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a lot like writing software, though, right? It's like writing software for people. It's
kind of.
Yeah. It's instructions for humans instead of instructions for computers, and it's a different skill, but it's sort of the same thing. It's you're still trying to solve a problem. It's still a lot of the same things are important. Of like having code that's more concise is better, and having a blog post that's more concise is better, and making it accessible to more people is better, and having it be more efficient that like people can get from the beginning to the end faster is better. We both cut our teeth on software though. It can be hard to make that transition. I get it.
Yeah,
I'll be there soon.
Cool.
I have one more thing I want to talk about, which I would like a hot take on.
All right.
It's called Face Follower.
Face Follower.
Face Follower.
That means several things. What does that mean to you?
It's like my Camboy app.
Yeah.
So part of my ongoing discussion with Brian Richards, the guy behind WP Sessions, the virtual conference, that was a goalpost I had for File Inbox development for a long time of like, I want to build it up to the point where he can use it to receive these conference talk recordings. And I did that. And then I'm still chatting with him. He's a good friend. And the next thing that he was like, well, you solved this huge problem for me. This is great. But you know what would be really great is if you could automate editing it. And I was like, well, actually, I've done a lot of that for Eclipse.marketing. So if you wanted to do like a little contract, perhaps for something in the neighborhood of $2,412, I'd be happy to do that. And so we got to talking about what that would look like for editing. And he has an editor, which is interesting because I was like, well, your editor charges you nothing. Like, that doesn't make sense for you to automate this? And he was like, yeah, you're right. But there's a specific thing in editing that my editor is not very good at doing that would make a better product. And a better product I could justify spending a lot more money on. And that is in the view. So you have a conference talk and they're recording their screen and they're recording their face. And then you have these manufactured third and fourth angles of like, it's the screen with your face tiny in the bottom.
Right.
And it's like the screen and the face. And then the whole video has a background of your conference custom branding or whatever. And when the face is smaller, you have to sort of like crop it and zoom it in. And if the person recording this isn't trained in staying perfectly in the center of their video, which, by the way, in editing Tim Leland's episode last week, we do perfectly. Like, I don't know how this happened, but our faces stay perfectly in the middle of our video. We're not moving back and forth at all. Probably because we have the microphones in place and we're staying by those.
Yeah, the mics and the UI, like we're used to it now. I mean, we've done 71 episodes, so we're used to staying in the middle.
Yeah, Tim was pretty good, but there were a lot of times where he was leaning off to one side or the other. So for people who record their conference talks on Brian's site and are not as familiar with staying in the middle, wouldn't it be great if, for that smaller zoomed in view, you had an easy way to follow their face? And he was like, man, I've Googled all around for something like this. They could just crop into the face and just follow it around. Very similar to Apple's center stage feature of their webcams. It's capturing video in 4K that's like this wide angle, but then it can zoom into individual faces. I think Facebook had a little like countertop video chatting thing that did this too. Wouldn't it be great if there was like a software way to do this? And I can't find anything about it in Final Cut Pro. It's a surprisingly unsolvable problem with the current technologies. So I took the book that you recommended me, Learn TensorFlow.js, and found their little code of like, here's how you track a face, and found a new library that does that really quickly. And entirely in the browser, was able to mock up an app where you drag and drop a video in, and it tracks frame by frame in the browser. Here's where the face is, and here's these key points of like the eyes and the mouth and the ears and the nose. And from that, there's also a way in the browser entirely to run FFmpeg, and based on some criteria of like, here's how big the video, here's how zoomed in you want to be, here's how slow the video is going to pan back and forth. I could, in the browser, analyze and export a video that is following the face. What's your hot take on that idea?
Okay. Very cool technically. There is an app, what's it called? Around.in or something? No, I can't find it. There is a thing like Zoom, but it puts your face in a little bubble, and then you can have bubbles instead of like a Zoom window on your screen. And it follows your face. It does pretty well. So people have built it into things like Zoom before. I don't know of any that have it as a standalone thing. I haven't looked for it, but what this feels like to me is, so in the browser is cool. What it feels like though is like an After Effects or a Final Cut Pro plugin.
Yeah.
Because then you're in their workflow, right? So if you can figure out how to do it on their computer, so you don't need server stuff, then you could probably sell it for $100 as a plugin pretty easily. That is probably the route that I would look at, unless you have some good way, some way that you're going to get customers. Like, how are you going to do marketing for a face following thing?
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to think about. But it's cool if you can do it technically. But it feels
That's
like
a really good point. That it would make more sense as a video editor plugin. I'm reminded of Amy Hoy and Alex Hillman's part of their 3500 step is to figure out what your audience buys. So like don't sell an iPad app to an audience who doesn't use iPads. The audience here I think would be video editors, and the thing that they buy is plugins.
Yeah.
Interesting. That I have no idea how plugins work though. But I assume everything I'm doing would be technically possible, that like I could run a little TensorFlow thing in the background. And
so with Photoshop, I know that you can run JavaScript or some weird version of JavaScript on the client device. You may need a backend though if it was like a Photoshop plugin. I have no idea about After Effects or Final Cut Pro.
Okay. Do you know if Final Cut Pro has an App Store marketplace?
I have no idea.
After Effects have no idea. After Effects does? Okay. Interesting. Yeah, that would be the
Adobe
play.
does. Does After Effects? After Effects. I know people sell After Effects plugins.
I know people sell Final Cut Pro plugins too.
AE Scripts. So there is like a scripts plugin. There's a place to sell scripts.
Okay. It's kind of tricky selling this sort of thing without a built-in marketplace, because what do you do? Go on like Gumroad and sell it, and then they put it on a pirating site, and then no one else buys it.
Maybe.
Okay. I think that's a really good idea, and I think, oh man, what I want to do is like build this if he wants to pay for it in a contracting thing. Yeah.
I was gonna say if you can find say 3 people, find 3 people to buy it, then you could build it. How about that?
Okay. All right, Chris. I'll find 3 customers first. I just want to build it.
You
cool.
could. I mean, since it's in the browser, you could also. You know what this would be good for? If you did make Clips.marketing a thing, this would be great. Engineering is marketing. So this is built in a browser.
Oh shit! Actually, yeah. Oh man, and this is a problem I was having before with Clips.marketing of how you convert landscape videos to portrait. Oh,
build it in a browser, write a giant blog post about it, do a video about it, and publish it everywhere for free. That's what I do.
Absolutely. This is a part of Clips.marketing. Yeah. That's exactly what makes this make sense. Okay, thank you. Yeah. Because then, oh man, that's perfect. That solves what I was trying to get done. Yeah, because then what I can do is for this really tricky problem of like you have a landscape video that goes on YouTube, but you want to publish a clip of it on TikTok. How do you do that?
You follow the face.
You follow the face, and
Yeah.
you. Oh man, perfect. Okay, I'm gonna need to chew on that for a few days. Cool. That was a really good hot take. Good stuff. Chris, that's all I got.
That's all I got too.
Then I'll see you next week. Goodbye.